What's the most spectacularly bad fix you tried on something that wasn't broken? It started with a squeak. Not a scream for help squeak, just the polite eek of a kitchen cabinet hinge clearing its throat. Most people would ignore it. I, however, watched 2 videos and became a hinge sommelier. I purchased a micro Allen key that looked like jewelry and a bottle of oil that promised whisper quiet movement like it was selling spa days to hardware. I loosened exactly 1 screw and the door side off its axis like a fainting Victorian. No problem, I lied to the room, catching the door with my thigh and a noise only dogs could hear. The cabinet, now feral, pinged a hidden spring into a far dimension. I texted my building chat, anyone have a hinge spring? Stan, retired engineer, neighborhood Gandalf, replied, no one has a hinge spring. Hinge springs reveal themselves to the worthy. Plan B, remove the door and recalibrate like a surgeon who watched one medical drama. I labeled screws with tape that said top ISH and emotionally bottom. The door leaned against the stove, judging. I dabbed 3 innocent points with oil. The hinge drank, smiled, and vomited onto the counter like a tiny Exxon. Then the drawer below decided to unionize. It refused to close, threatened to bite, and developed a wobble that felt personal. I pulled it out to reason with it and discovered the ancestral stash of rubber bands, soy sauce packets, and a single AA battery that every apartment inherits with the lease. I put the drawer on the table and the table bowed like it was meeting royalty. Enter Stan with a headlamp and the patience of a saint with a coupon for torque wrenches. He listened to my tale, nodded as one nods at a child's finger painting, then asked where the spring went. Into the 4th dimension, I said. He produced a magnet on a string, we spelunked beneath the stove, and retrieved a paperclip, a dime from a previous life, and enough crumbs to rebake a baguette. No spring. Stan rolled his shoulders, peered at the hinge, and whispered, we shall fabricate. He bent the paperclip like origami for pessimists, threaded it through the hinge with tweezers, and told me to hold my breath. The cabinet inhaled, exhaled, and reattached itself to reality. Open, he commanded. It opened. Close. It closed. The squeak? Gone. The oil? Everywhere, including a tasteful stripe across my cat, who now smelled faintly of machine. I thanked him with pasta, Antonio, obviously. He accepted with the air of a man who has bartered for stranger things. For 3 days, the cabinet floated like grace itself. On day 4, at 3:17 a.m., it emitted a single, smug squeak as if to say, we remember who you are. I considered moving. Instead, I added a sticky note inside the door, you are loved, please cooperate. It worked about as well as pep talks usually do. The hinge squeaks only during thunderstorms, divorce, and Mercury retrograde. We've agreed to call it atmospheric.
What's the weirdest neighborly exchange you've had over a borrowed item? I borrowed a ladder from my neighbor with the solemnity of a knight taking a quest. 3 rules, she said. 1. Don't fall. 2. Don't paint my ladder without asking. 3. If you find the lost wind chime, it's ours now. I nodded as if I were fluent in ladder law. The goal, replace a ceiling bulb placed by a giant with spite. I ascended rung by rung, holding a bulb and a prayer. Halfway up, I realized my arms were 4 inches shorter than the ceiling required. I tried the tiptoe on a rung move my ancestors warned me about. The ladder creaked, an ancient ladder. I descended, texted need taller, and received a reply from the group thread, Stan has a bigger ladder. Stan arrived with an aluminum cathedral. We set it in the hall like modern art and I climbed into thin air. At the top I met a nation of dust. I replaced the bulb, sneezed, and watched the new bulb skid across my palm toward fate. A hand reached up from below, my neighbor, wearing oven mitts like a catcher, snagged it mid-flight, and handed it back with the gravitas of an umpire, you're safe. Mission complete, we decided to hunt the mythic wind chime lost during the last equinox storm. The clue, the alley that smells like dill pickles and gossip. We moved like archaeologists of yard debris, behind the trash corral, under the wild grape that thinks it's a landlord, around a busted chair that has absolutely seen things. A metal shimmer in the ivy. We excavated a 5-bell chime tangled in vines like Sleeping Beauty. We did it, my neighbor whispered, as if we'd stolen fire. We celebrated on the stoop with seltzer and victory chips. A teen strolled by, nodded at the ladder, and asked for exactly 1 rung for an art project. The latter consented in principle, we denied in practice, the teen sighed poetically and left. Returning the ladder is when things got weird. My neighbor pointed at a microdent on the side rail with the seriousness of small claims court. I prepared an apology monologue that included reparations, pasta, and a plaque. She said, "That dent? It's been there since 2009. But now you've noticed the ladder's flaws, and that's step 4 of borrowing, mutual vulnerability." I stared like she'd handed me a philosophy degree. She shrugged. Also, wind chime tax is 2 cookies. We hung the chime where the afternoon breeze does its best work. It sang a scale of "we live here" and "borrow things again." The next day I found a note under my door, "Borrow anytime. Return with stories." I keep a small file labeled items on loan and plotlines. It contains a garlic press, a Tupperware, a neighbor's book about moss, and a debt to a ladder I will repay by never falling.
What's the most chaotic family group chat meltdown you've witnessed? Our family chat is called The Noise because naming it anything else would be perjury. One evening it detonated over a casserole. Aunt Lena announced she'd bring her famous broccoli cheddar to Grandma's Sunday lunch. Cousin Max, who has recently discovered both podcasts and opinions, countered that broccoli is a social contract violation. Lines were drawn, gifts were launched. I set my phone face down and it vibrated like a pet hummingbird. Uncle Leo, a man who texts in all caps as if the phone is far away, declared, "Broccoli is a liberty vegetable." Grandma, who weaponizes punctuation, replied, "Broccoli is fine." Slightly smiling face Max is dramatic. Upside down face, the emoji choice destabilized 3 branches of the family tree. My brother, an agent of chaos, posted a poll, "Pick your fighter, broccoli, cheddar, chaos, or I'll eat bread." Bread led early, chaos surged late. Then someone accidentally added the plumber, saved as Joe $120 per hour to the thread. Joe posted a thumbs up and the invoice for last month's sink, which we all applauded like a guest lecturer. He voted for bread. He stayed. Aunt Lena posted a photo of her casserole under flattering kitchen lighting. Cousin Max screenshotted an article titled, "Is Broccoli Real?" from a website we later determined to be a satire of satire. Grandpa posted the same blurry picture of a dog 4 times. The dog is not ours. We adopted it anyway. Tensions peaked when the GIF repository glitched and replaced "calm down" with a looping flamethrower. The chat arced into absurdity. My mom suggested compromise, half broccoli, half neutral. Neutral? Someone proposed cauliflower, someone else screamed betrayal. I suggested we let the baby decide, the baby is 2 and voted by smashing the bread emoji 5 times. At 10 p.m., the only adult among us, Grandma's neighbor Ida, texted from a flip phone she uses only for emergencies and recipes, "Make 2. Add fried onions. Everyone shut up and drink water." The thread fell silent with the respect reserved for weather. Sunday, we arrived with 2 casseroles, broccoli and cheddar, cheddar and potato, neutral. Joe the plumber came because he'd somehow earned an invite and brought a loaf of bread that required a small saw. We ate. We apologized in the ancient language of passing plates. Max admitted broccoli was fine in context. Grandpa produced the blurry dog from his pocket, it was a receipt. We laughed until someone snorted, then laughed at the snort. Later, Grandma sent a final message, "Thank you. Next time, bring fruit." The thread replied with 43 dancing strawberries. Joe left the chat with the formal, "Joe has left." The dog gif reappeared like an encore. The noise slept for 4 hours, then woke to someone asking, "Who has my Tupperware?" and we began again, as families do, loud, ridiculous, glued together by cheese and habit.
What's the funniest time a smart device misunderstood you and escalated? I asked my smart speaker to set a pasta timer for 10, and she heard, "Start a disaster for 10. Not ideal. The kitchen light switched to alarm red, and the thermostat attempted to boost drama to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. I shouted, "Cancel!" And she replied, "Playing Cancel by the Cancellers," which I'm 80% sure was a local punk band of 2 raccoons. I'd recently integrated half my apartment into a single app that promised to harmonize your home. Instead, it unionized my appliances and handed the mic to the wrong cousin. The robot vacuum, newly christened Sir Sweepington, began zigzagging like a Roomba with nightlife. The smart oven displayed "Are you sure?" in a font that felt passive-aggressive. The toaster, the dumb toaster, watched with the satisfaction of the unplugged. I tried the nuclear option. "Hey home, reset scene to calm." The speaker replied, "Setting scene, calm but chaotic." My lamps pulsed like an axe who texts at 2 a.m. A neighbor pinged, "Are you hosting a rave?" I texted back, "No, it's a pasta timer." In desperation, I summoned Stan. He arrived with a tool roll, calm eyebrows, and the knowledge that all tech collapses under firm kindness. "Rule 1, he said, "speak like a lawyer at a spelling bee." "We enunciated," said timer, "pasta, 10 minutes." The speaker replied, "Setting sprinkler zone pasta for 10 minutes. We do not have sprinklers. Somewhere, a city allotment watered itself." We pivoted to manual. I used my phone like a pocket sundial. Sir Sweepington attempted escape under the couch and found 3 ancient peanuts and my will to live. The speaker whispered, "Would you like to learn about risottos?" No. The oven offered a recipe for chaos casserole. Tempting. Stan opened the app and mapped my scenes, which I had named with the poetry of a teenager. Vibes, vibes but warm, vibes except blue. He created normal and absolute normal with dictator's clarity. He disabled an option labeled experimental features, which had a skull emoji I'd assumed was ironic. It was not. We tested. "Set pasta timer, 10 minutes." The speaker said, "Timer set." The light stopped auditioning for a club. The thermostat exhaled. Sir Sweeping undocked like a repentant ship. I put spaghetti in water and almost wept. Halfway through the boil, the speaker gently announced, "Reminder, check your feelings." Right? I'd accidentally migrated my therapist app. I checked them. Simmering al dente. When the timer chimed, it sounded like a civilized bell. We ate. The pasta tasted like triumphant firmware. Now I use my smart devices like coworkers I respect but don't befriend. Clear asks, no metaphors, no vibes. I renamed the scenes on an OFF. Sir Sweeping Nine keeps his nightlife to Fridays. And every so often, late at night, the speaker whispers, "I can play cancel if you want." I say, "Not tonight," and set a pasta timer like a king.
What's the most unhinged hotel/hostel night where strangers became a temporary family? I booked the cheapest room in a traveler's hostel because my train ate my budget. The lobby smelled like map ink and instant coffee. A chalkboard listed quiet hours and karaoke hours with a suspicious overlap. My bunkmate had a backpack the size of a horse and a smile that suggested he traded currency for stories. At 11:17 p.m., the power died. The hall lights flickered, sighed, and surrendered. A chorus of echoed through the building. The front desk clerk, a poet with keys, announced, "Storm knocked our block. We have flashlights and noodles." We cheered like pirates. Within minutes, the common room transformed into a pioneer camp. Candles sprouted in mugs. Someone played guitar at an appropriate volume, which felt like a miracle. A German couple constructed a tea ceremony from a mess kit. A woman from Oaxaca taught us to slice mango with a plastic spoon like surgeons on a mango-only ward. The noodles arrived in vats. We lined up with bowls and humility. A French cyclist repaired a stranger's sandal with a paperclip and grace. A software engineer from Pune spun a ghost story about a train that collects lost time. A retiree from Nebraska dealt a hand of cards and said, "We're playing for truths." We confessed tiny ones, first crushes, worst snacks, bus miracles. A kid from Brisbane taught us an accent in 3 syllables. "No worries, mate." We failed gloriously. At midnight the storm hit its drum solo. Rain slapped the windows like high fives. The clerk led a flashlight tour to the roof where the city sprawled like a puddle of gold and ink. We shouted our names into the wind and pretended it kept them safe. Back inside, someone suggested karaoke without electricity, pure acoustic audacity. We sang off-key and determined that Wonderwall exists in all languages and none. Around 2, a tiny emergency presented itself. A traveler named May realized her phone, and therefore her alarm, was dead, and she had a 5 a.m. bus. We formed a human alarm clock rotation, one person waking another every hour and passing the duty on like a relay. At 4:58, half the room murmured, "May, wake!" and she stood up into her backpack like a pilot into dawn. At 5, the power clicked back with the shy confidence of a rehearsal. The room looked suddenly ordinary. Tables, noodles, mugs with candle wax mustaches. We blinked at each other, as if we'd dreamt a village. People packed. We traded addresses like we meant it, and Instagram handles like we also meant that. As I checked out, the clerk slid me a postcard of the hostel at sunrise and said, "Write what it felt like." I wrote, strangers, noodles, weather, a choir of tiny yes. On the train, my phone buzzed with a new group chat titled Karaoke Hours Real. May sent a photo of the bus window, rain beating like punctuation. The cyclist posted the sandal, still heroic. The German couple's tea achieved a fan club. I turned my postcard over and added, "We were a town for a night." The streetlights remembered our names.